Hello, friends. Take a dive into the unknown with the Anomalous Fascination podcast. A new podcast where I research and discuss some of the most incredible and unexplainable phenomena, people, and historical events in human history. Episodes are packed full of incredible stories, theories, and mysteries, all in short, family-friendly, and easily digestible format. Prepare to be blown away by the mysteries of the universe, or, at very least, you'll be a lot more interesting at parties. To hop in, search Anomalous Fascination on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcast app of your choice. And don't forget to follow the show at AnomalyPod on Twitter. Let's take a stroll, shall we?
This episode is brought to you by the Slash and Cast Podcast Network. Learn more at slashandcast.net.
Hello and welcome back to Reverie True Crime. I'm your host Paige and you're listening to part 3 of the Pierce family murders, the suspicious death of Amanda Pierce. At the end of part 2, we listened to Amanda's ex-husband, father of their children, and friend, Dustin, talking to law enforcement. We also heard Brian and Kimberly talking at the hospital. There was a lot of information uncovered throughout part 1 and 2 that suggests Amanda's demise was likely not suicide at all. Kimberly lost her other sister Vivian and her mother Rebecca in 2009 when they were murdered by Damon Butler. Fast forward to 2015 and Kimberly was having to process the fact that her only other sibling was on her deathbed. Thankfully, Vivian and Rebecca's killer is spending life in prison. Amanda's case was ruled suicide, and it was never investigated properly as anything more when there is plenty of probable cause and suspicion to have done so. There are ways that you can help tremendously. I urge you to call and or email to ask for there to be a reopening and a proper reinvestigation of Amanda Pierce's case. It's probably best for us to call and email the district attorney first, then work our way down. Grayson County District Attorney Brett Smith, 903-813-4361. His email is smithb@graysoncounty.co.tx.us. Governor Greg Abbott, 512-463-2000. Texas State Attorney General Ken Paxton, 512-463-2100. Texas House Representative Reggie Smith, 512-463-0297. Honorable Pat Fallon, 903-820-5170. And the Grayson County Police Department, 903-813-4200. I'll also have all of these numbers and emails in the show notes, as well as Instagram, Twitter, and the Facebook page. You can also follow and like the Facebook page that Kimberly Mullens has made for her sister called The Pain of Injustice. If you have not listened to part 1 and 2, I would encourage that you do so before listening to this episode so you can get caught up on all of the details and explosive witness statement recordings. Let's get into part 3. In part 2, the last thing we heard was Amanda's sister Kimberly talking to Brian at the hospital. We even got to hear Brian at Amanda's bedside while Kimberly gave him some alone time with her. In his conversation with Kimberly, he said that he saw Amanda sitting in the window when he got to the house. This comment completely threw me for a loop when I heard it, and I'm not even sure what to make of it. Could it be possible that that's the truth and it slipped on accident? That he did see her in the window, and when he got inside, a possible fight may have ensued since she had an hour to be out of the apartment. Brian said he saw her pink overnight bag downstairs when he got home. One thing that bothered Kimberly was, Brian said it was unusual for her bag to be there. Side note, what we will hear later is that the police keep trying to push the narrative that the pink bag is Amanda's lunch bag, and it is not. There will be pictures on Instagram of the bags that she had packed and the contents inside of the bags. If that were her lunch bag, why would it be so unusual to Brian that it was by the door? From many other accounts, Amanda only took her wallet to work and would stop somewhere to pick up lunch, not take her own. Amanda's superior where she worked never told Detective Jones that the bag was her lunch bag. However, the detective said that the superior said that, so he wrote it in his report. Now, why did he feel the need to add that false statement into his report if he truly thought Amanda completed suicide? Amanda didn't even go to work that day since she was making plans to get out of the apartment. So why did that specific bag have to be written down by the detective that it was her lunch bag? Brian also told Kimberly there was no suicide note or message. After Brian had left, the neurologist decided that it was time to make the phone call to the Justice of the Peace, Larry Atherton, to explain the situation and the family's request for an autopsy to be performed. Larry said that an autopsy would not be performed due to Amanda's mental health history and alcoholism. If the autopsy were to happen at all, it would have to come out of Kimberly's pocket. At this point, none of Amanda's family or friends had even spoken to the detective. I did post the recordings in part 1 and 2, just so you could get an idea of the background and history of what was really going on between Amanda and Brian. It seemed like the detective had already spoken to the Justice of the Peace by that Sunday evening, or someone from the Sherman Police Department had, because how else would Larry Atherton have known about Amanda's history if he wasn't told? From my search on cdc.gov of reasons why in Texas they are obligated to perform autopsies, I found that one of many reasons is if a person commits suicide or the circumstances of the death indicate that the death may have been caused by suicide. An autopsy and investigation are supposed to be performed. No questions asked. Since law enforcement was hell-bent on this being a suicide because they constantly brought up that she struggled with mental health issues, why wouldn't an autopsy be performed without Kimberly and her family having to pay for it out of their own pocket? I came across another source that says, quote, "A coroner or medical examiner will generally decline to do an autopsy if it appears that no crime was involved with the death. Just because a crime was not committed, however, does not necessarily mean that someone died of natural causes." End quote. The Justice of the Peace should have followed state guidelines so that the family would not have had to call the district attorney's office begging and pleading for an autopsy to be performed, and praying that Amanda didn't pass away before Monday morning. All this time had passed, and the family had still not heard a word from the detective addressing their serious questions and concerns. May 17th, 2015. It started to set in for Kimberly that Amanda was not going to survive. The neurologist told Kimberly that the damage to her brain was irreversible, and there had to be decisions made about discontinuing Amanda's life support, as well as discussing organ donation. Amanda was such a fighter. Before this day, she had been breathing a little above the ventilator, but now she had become completely reliant on it. So many people who loved Amanda came to the ICU to visit. Kimberly listened to story after story from coworkers, friends, and family about the appalling, excruciating abuse Amanda was suffering. The stories of how frequently he strangled her until she was unconscious, the multiple death threats to her, and how he told her he would kill her kids and family as well. At this point, many had reached out to the detective on the case and gave their statements, a few that we have already heard in Part 1 and 2. Amanda's friends, Amber and Crystal, were at the ICU visiting Amanda Sunday evening when the detective finally called. Kimberly was able to explain everything that she had learned up until this point, and she told him she was worried that Brian would flee. Kimberly brought up the fact that Brian had outstanding warrants and wanted to know if he could be arrested for that. The reason the detective gave for him not being arrested at the scene was that the, quote, warrants don't come up in our system, end quote. So supposedly nothing was there to tell them Brian had a domestic violence charge and warrant for his arrest on that charge. The detective said, quote, you don't want to jump in and make an arrest without knowing all the facts, end quote. However, when Officer Boyle was on the scene, he told many there that he was aware of the violent relationship and he was aware of the warrants. Did he not tell the detective about the warrants for assault and failure to appear in court? According to Detective Jones, no. If the detective had searched Brian's name in the database, the warrants would have shown up. Kimberly does not believe the detective did not know about these things at all. If we want to play devil's advocate and say that the detective didn't know, Officer Boyle and the other officers on the scene did know, and Brian should have been arrested that night. I do have permission from Kimberly and her husband to read their emails to the detective, and what I can say about the so-called replies to their concerns is that they were never addressed. One sentence responses were sent back to them when they were even lucky enough to get a reply at all, and he was never addressing the important matters at hand. Here are some of the emails from Kimberly and her husband. Justin writes on May 18th, I wanted to follow up with you and make sure we're clear with what is going on with our family, and to please share with anyone such as the DA or assistant DA who can assist with the investigation of Brian. Amanda Pierce was my wife's sister and my sister-in-law for 24 years. She is the mother of 2 boys, Jordan, 13, the oldest who lives with us, and Kendall, 6, who lives with his father, Dustin, of Sherman, Texas. Amanda has no brain activity and is still on the ventilator to support life. As we found out today, the DA ordered to have an autopsy performed, which we are thankful for. We know Amanda's wishes to help others, and she is being considered for an organ/tissue harvest. The Justice of the Peace has graciously taken time out of his schedule tonight to speak with the Dallas medical examiner who has more experience with autopsies and organ/tissue harvest to make sure that one does not affect the other in any way. Our first priority is to Amanda, and to make sure that the autopsy findings are first priority over the harvest. Our family, friends who knew her, and physicians taking care of Amanda in no way believe that she took her life in the way that Brian said. He has documented domestic violence against Amanda and another female, in addition to having an active warrant out for his arrest that appears to have been ignored. There is overwhelming evidence to support our belief. Kimberly has documented in detail to assist, which she has shared some with you, but too much to recall in one short conversation with you since the event over 4 days ago. I would like to request a meeting tomorrow to review number 1, investigation process at the scene and anything else to current time. Number 2, clarification of events that led up to the event and our current and historical information. Number 3, the investigation plans going forward. Number 4, how we'll be kept informed. And number 5, anything we can do to assist. If you are unable to speak with us about the above, who can? And how do we schedule a meeting with that person? Justin goes on to give their contact information and thanks the detective for his assistance, and he says he looks forward to meeting. Kimberly wrote a separate email that says, another person that she spoke to Wednesday and Thursday was her ex-husband Dustin. She gives his number and says that Dustin said that Brian told her to be out by 7 and she was scared. They had a huge argument Wednesday night and Brian had stole $100 from her. She told the detective where Brian works and she asked if he can be picked up on his warrant. She says, I really feel he will run if he thinks we suspect him. He's here illegally, per Amanda, Dustin, and Amber. Brian has all of Amanda's bank card information. Thanks for your help, Kimberly. There was a one-sentence response from the detective, but it had nothing to do with their major concerns. Kimberly wrote to the detective saying that she had been staying in touch and keeping him, quote, updated on her so-called recovery because they did not want him to think that they suspected him of anything. So those are the emails that Kimberly and Justin had sent up to this point. Now when we get to other dates, I will read more of the emails, which just get extremely frustrating because of the lack of the responses from the detective. The excuse the detective would later make about not writing them back a lot was that he didn't have time. With Amanda's friends being so frustrated about zilch being done by law enforcement, they went to the apartment to talk to Brian, even though Kimberly advised them not to. She wanted to keep Brian on their side because he may talk more. When Amber and Crystal arrived at the apartment, they accused Brian of killing Amanda. The neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, saw everything. There was a confrontation, and after Amanda's friends had left the complex, Mrs. Thompson saw Brian stroll to his car with a brown envelope tucked under his arm. He proceeded to get into his car and drive away. That would be the last time anyone saw Brian in Grayson County, Texas. He left behind everything he owned, including fake immigration information, family letters and photos from Guatemala, his clothes, shoes, electronics, and more. For a very long time, no one would know where Brian disappeared to. The next day, Monday, Brian and Kimberly did text about Amanda. She told Brian that Amanda was doing better, only saying that so he would not worry or feel like they were suspecting that he did this to Amanda. Well, immediately after he texted Kimberly back, saying that he was thankful that she was improving, his phone was disconnected. That is the last time Kimberly would ever hear from Brian. Right away, Kimberly sent an email to the detective to let him know that Brian had disconnected his phone. Brian never went back to work. He made no calls to his work to inform anyone that he wasn't coming back, and he didn't turn in a letter of resignation. District Attorney Joe Brown and Assistant DA Carrie Ashmore sent over the approval for Amanda's autopsy to Kimberly. Her husband Justin emailed over their concerns and scheduled an appointment to meet them at the police department to discuss everything. On the 19th of May, Kimberly met with the detective and Officer Smith at the Sherman Police Department. I am going to let you listen to that meeting. I want you to pay awfully close attention to the words the detective and officer use and the way in which they say them. I personally feel like they talked down to Kimberly and her husband, and I feel like there is some gaslighting going on in this meeting as well. I would like to know what you all think. After this recording, we will wrap up this episode and come back Monday for part 4. So here is the recording of that meeting.
Have a seat, make yourself comfortable. Appreciate y'all coming up here. Y'all had some more information for me and a few questions, so I wanted to meet with you and see what information you had and see what we can do.
Part of it, we're trying to, I guess we just understand, the first night she met with us, we hadn't seen her.
We didn't know why she was there.
We didn't really know why she was there.
She just tried to take her life. It was kind of a...
And that's where we left at, and we felt that, the JP and the information was given was kind of, we felt it was just left at that is what it is what we thought it is, and it's not going to change. Not saying that's what y'all felt, that was the perception we received, or we felt, whether it's right or wrong, it's kind of perception until we seen it. I've been a medical professional for 20 years, a long time, and seen things, a lot of stuff, I know a lot of things, and then more information coming out from.
Which I think, did I email you that, or?
You emailed me a little bit of stuff. I've been busy the last few days, ever since. This is Lieutenant Smith. He's my lieutenant in the Criminal Investigation Division. This is Justin and Kimberly Mullens.
I know him, actually.
How?
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I didn't put the face together.
No,
We're just wondering, like, that night, we want to know what you guys saw or seen or what was said, because, the neighbor lady that actually witnessed a lot of the violence had talked to the guy who supposedly helped her down and was saying that, he said she had a belt around her neck and that it was harnessed, and it was just,
a belt, but then Brian himself told us that she cut off a cord from an iron, something like that, and used it. So there's a lot of conflicting stories, from his mouth to us, personally told us that. Recordings that she had.
We don't have any, I'm like, I don't even know what y'all saw eye to eye, what you saw.
Who was it that told y'all about a belt?
Next door neighbor.
Ada Thompson.
Ada?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We didn't bring it up. She brought it up. She brought that to us, and was talking. She come to see her yesterday, or come to see us yesterday.
Not knowing how serious it
And
was.
she said who told her about a belt?
The guy who lives there, the one that helped her down, helped
Brian, I guess.
I don't even know, was Amanda hanging whenever the guy came up to help, or, he told me he took her down and did CPR on her, and his friend came up and didn't have a phone and wouldn't call 911. I mean,
This is what David told you?
No, I'm sorry. This is what Brian.
Brian.
Sorry. Okay, we'll talk about Miss Ada.
Okay. Let's start from, let's see if we can get all this ironed out here. Okay. Tell me exactly what Ada told you.
That the guy who, I guess, owns the house or that lives in the house that helped Brian,
Okay.
said that she had like some kind of belt around her, and it was like kind of harnessed. The way she was harnessed was,
It was,
I don't know.
It appeared to be broken from what he had said, but it was definitely, she said belt, and
it was clasped.
She said that, he told her it was a belt. We didn't bring up anything. We didn't bring up cord. We didn't bring up talking to Brian. That was her volunteering to us what he told her.
The guy that owns the house.
Correct. Or
Okay.
something that one of the guys that was there.
Okay.
That was at the scene, some fashion or not. We don't 100% know all that.
Okay. And then you've talked to Brian,
He was there the first night.
and what did he tell you?
I have it all recorded. I don't know if it's admissible in law, but I recorded the whole conversation.
Texas is a single-party consent, so you can record anything you want to as long as you're part of the conversation. So,
38 minutes of conversation
okay.
with him.
Is it? Are you able to burn it to a DVD? Or?
It's too big of a file to go through
Okay.
my...
Well, we may be able to transpose it to a recorder later on. Can you give me the highlights of what he said?
He said that he got home around 6:55, and when he got home, he came down. Was downstairs, and he saw Amanda's bag sitting there with her things on the couch downstairs, and he thought it was weird. And the guy talked to him about selling a couch, buying furniture for 8 minutes. He made sure he said 8 minutes, and I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, I was trying to hurry up and get upstairs to see Amanda, and he said he went upstairs and he opened the doors. Amanda, he was doing all this, walking around the room, acting like he was looking for her.
And the room's probably what, about 10 maybe?
I don't
I
know.
don't know if you've been in there or not.
I've seen pictures of it. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And so he said he went to the bathroom. He never saw her. Went to the bathroom, and he went to the closet, and in the closet was nice, and all the clothes were neat
But
and
did you say
hung
in the
up.
bathroom for 2 minutes?
Yeah, he was like in the bathroom for 2 minutes, and then the clothes were. So he didn't notice anything in the closet. When he walked to the closet door, he took off his shirt. Showed me how he took off his shirt, and he said he dropped it in the floor in the basket, and he saw her feet in the back of the closet. So I guess she had put in all the clothes nice and neat, so nobody knew she was back there. And then he said, no, let me show you how it was. And he got on his knees, and he was showing me how she was hanging, sitting on her knees. And he said, I took her down, and I started doing chest compression CPR, and I called for help. The guy downstairs came for help, and anyway, so he tried to save her. And
Okay. Has he said anything any different than that since y'all talked? Okay. Have not talked to him since that one night.
The first night that, that was, you talking about, that's the conversation you recorded.
that's a conversation I
Okay.
recorded.
The night that I saw him Thursday night after we talked to you, we went in there, and we know the history of him beating her. We've had phone calls where you hear him in the background yelling at her, get off the phone, and smacking her around. We heard those things on the phone call. One night I called the Sherman Police Department asking for help, and then I was going over, and my words to the operator, the person was, I'm headed over to Amanda's house. She's getting beat up by the boyfriend, who has a record, has a warrant out, and is still active. I said I would like for someone, the police, to come over and meet me there, so one, I don't kill him, or two, someone else doesn't get hurt, or I get thrown in jail. Well, I was told, we can't do that. We can't meet you over there. I said, okay. I said, but when I got there, he had already left.
How long ago was that?
6 weeks ago, maybe, give or take.
Was that when it was snowing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was
Was it snowing?
Was it?
Was that ice?
Yeah.
That was probably in February.
Yeah. I thought kind of bothered him all the sun. But,
If it was raining, we'd understand.
correct. And then the bruise on her chest, you can see,
Mhm.
that was a Mother's Day's gift. As well.
What he'd gotten into the pattern of doing that all of her friends are telling us now is that he would choke her out until she passed out, and then he would kick her until she woke up. So that's why she always had bruises, just different areas.
Do you know why she never reported any of this?
We asked her to leave. We asked her to go with us.
Why she never did. She was scared of him, number one. People would go, she was moved very many times, but he would just harass her and follow her and, support her habit, beer.
Kick her out, but don't leave. You get out and leave, but don't go nowhere, you know.
And just woo her back into, you know, I'll take care of you because nobody else wants you. And then, you know, it's just a sick relationship.
And you can verify with Ada, and we don't want to, you know, we don't want to sound like it's coming from us and we made it up, so I encourage you to talk to Ada more. I can tell you that Ada is scared for her life over there.
Who's Ada Moore?
Ada's the one that lives next door.
Ada Thompson.
Ada Thompson.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
You know,
We talked to her that night, and she didn't tell us any of this.
I know, because the people there, they've come into her house. And basically, she had to push them out the other day. And I think she's very afraid of
Well,
she lives there.
Well, when y'all questioned her that night, this came afterwards when she went over to ask what had happened. You know, what's
After
going
y'all
on.
had left.
After
Okay.
after
Well, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
And when Amanda was, she told me Amanda was over there, I don't know, a week ago.
5:30.
A week ago or 2 weeks ago, and he pulls up, and she knows that she has to be home when Brian gets there. And she was sitting over there with Ada talking, using her phone, because he don't let her have a phone. If she has a phone, she's broken. He breaks it so she can't call anybody. And he comes to the door very upset and mad. You know, I don't want you over here. You know, you're not allowed to be here. Get it. You know that, and basically makes her leave Ada's house. And so, you know, those type of situations. You know, Amber didn't tell me this, but it was voicing to Kimberly. You know that Amanda called me at 10:30 Thursday, approximately.
Yeah, I have like the timeline.
10:30 p.m.
a.m. that morning,
Okay.
looking for Amber's phone number, trying to get hold of Kimberly because she needed to leave, needed to move out. I could hear in her voice that she was stressed, but you know she knows that Amanda has burnt a lot of bridges with us, with other people, and so it was very difficult for us to come pick her up. But she was frantically trying to reach Amber. Amber's words to Kimberly was that I've got to be out before he gets home or he's going to kill me. You know, so, and then these people
Had to be gone by 7.
had to be gone by 7. You know, you get other people making comments from that used to work with Amanda, you know, that he beats her, he chastises her, he chokes her out. You know, there's too many, there's domestic, you know, I'm sure you know the reports on him. Us believing, you know, she did this, and I don't know what your belief is, or, you know, you guys see much more of this than we do.
Right now, it's still an open investigation. We're still looking at what I've been going around the last few days talking to people that know them, know her, and trying to figure out if anything else was said, was whatever. I'm still developing stuff on that.
And we don't make, just so you guys know, we don't make a conclusion. I mean, obviously,
Sure.
we work enough of them.
Yeah.
Deaths, natural and unnatural, that we do have kind of a thought process, but it's a methodical scene no matter what, and we do everything we do to prove or disprove one way or the other.
Sure.
So I guess what I'm saying is the evidence leads us to what our final conclusion will be. And some of that, actually probably a large portion of it in this case, hinges on the autopsy results.
Sure.
Once that's finally done and what the E says. And then we'll see where we go from there. But you guys bringing up, you know, so-and-so said this and so-and-so said that, that is all stuff that we, if we haven't already talked to them, and some of them I know
I've talked to most of them. There's a couple I need to
We need
re-interview.
to go out and either refute or corroborate that.
Okay.
But when people tell you things, just remember they may not tell the police the same thing.
Correct. And
Sometimes.
That's why we'd rather
And
be
Ada,
talking.
I'll be honest with you, Ada, when she started telling us, I said, "Have you told this to the police?" I could see her fear in her eyes that she was afraid to talk to you guys.
Yeah.
Because they've been into her house. They, you know, have, you know.
Hey, after, I guess,
You know, when the police came up to talk to her, I guess the day after, or something like, you know, they.
whenever Amber went over and beat the crap out of him?
Yes.
That
So
was Sunday.
Amber and 3 girls went over there. You know,
When
may
you
have
talked to
noticed
Sunday,
already.
Mm-hmm.
When they
she
found
drove
out
right
there
over there
was
and beat the crap
an
out of him.
exception.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
3 girls went over there to kick his ass, which was fine with us, but, you know, we think it might have hurt some, you know, on the part of knowing that we're looking into things. But Ada, after they left at the time, they hauled across to her. Did you call the police again?
The police came.
The police came, you know, so she's afraid, and I don't blame her. So I could see where she wouldn't want to talk to you guys, especially at that location. For any
And we
reason.
don't have, and we can offer people, you know, come up here and talk to us, or we can go out there. In her case, it would probably benefit us to see if she'd come down here.
Yeah.
And
Or
she,
we can meet her somewhere else.
even till last night at 10 o'clock, she didn't realize how serious it was. I said we're, getting ready to do an organ donation, and she just like, she's like, I can't believe it,
And we have not sought out and went to Ada. We didn't go to Amber and her friends. We didn't go to anybody or the people that she used to work with. They all came to us telling us this without us explaining anything that's going on. And they didn't know that what had happened. They didn't know how she died. They were making these comments before they found out that she died by either hanging or being choked. They made these comments before knowing that, and made comments that he's going to choke me to death when I get home. He's going to kill me if I'm not gone before he gets home.
And Dustin was one of the guys, or one of the persons she did talk to on that Thursday morning.
And have you talked to Dustin?
The ex-husband? I have not talked to him yet.
I would really encourage that one.
Now, I've talked to him in the past, but I'm not talking to him about this case.
We're going to talk to everybody
Sure,
that
that's
we
where
can that will talk to us, and then we're going to try to corroborate the evidence. One thing else I was going to say is it's just the discrepancy that you hear between a belt and maybe a cord, or what people's perception, especially in a intense situation, and you know this from your training, I'm sure, is not the same.
Absolutely.
I can take a armed robbery and have it happen, and 5 people look at it, and they're going to say it was a Hispanic guy, a black guy, and a white guy.
Absolutely.
Because everybody sees different things.
Well, I want to know what they saw at the scene, what he said at the scene.
I can tell you that without giving away a lot of our information, that the iron is what was used. Okay, the cord.
And let me tell you this too before you think that we're a bunch of jerks.
No.
Because I would be inclined sitting in your shoes to think we're being a bunch of jerks, but the big reason that we don't want to throw all our cards out on the table with what was at the scene right now is because we still have people to talk to. And if that kind of information inadvertently gets out and they know about stuff that they shouldn't know about unless they were there, it can damage our case. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And we want you to do that. We don't want to mess anything up.
And I say in the end, once we've talked to everybody we could possibly talk to, and we come to a conclusion, we will be glad to sit down and show you everything we got, from start to finish, and say this is where we're at and this is how we got to this. And then we can do it, and we'll feel relieved that stuff won't get out that will damage somebody's testimony later. Because if for some reason this turns out to be a homicide versus a suicide, which there's that potential, and it goes to court, and then they find out when that information was released before it should have been, it could severely damage that in trial. And we don't want to risk that.
I know y'all are concerned about the warrants too. I checked in on that. The warrants were not in the system that we use the night that it happens. Why they didn't arrest him on that? They were in the county system, but not in ours.
I can tell you that one of your Sherman police officers looked it up weeks ago and told me.
Right, but we asked dispatch to check certain things. They go through a certain system to check that was not in that system, and it's still not in that system. But we did call after I got the email from you. I did check, and they are in the county system. The other thing is, usually when we go out to a traumatic scene like that, and when there's family members involved, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, unless it's something major, we try not to arrest on it. And because of that, you want us to come to your house because something happened on Thanksgiving Day, and then end up taking half the family to jail on warrants because we were there because of somebody, getting mad, punching the other one or something like that. We too try to take that stuff into consideration. On the other hand, too,
the warrants never go away.
Yeah.
And we completely understand it's easy for us to coach from the sidelines and poke,
right.
We should have done, or why aren't you, we understand that. We're not trying to cause problems.
I think what happened is that they were talking about having, turning off the vent over the weekend. And then the neurologist said, I'm with you guys. That ligature mark is not consistent with the hanging. The abrasions, the circle all the way around, it's too low. You're not, the body weight, it's just, he's like, I think you do have a thing to have this looked into. It looks like, don't. And so we called the Justice of the Peace. If she passes, we want to make sure there's an autopsy done. And they said, no, it's suicide. We can't order an autopsy. We would have to pay for it personally. Then it would just be like a medical one. It wouldn't really be like a criminal, looked at any different. So.
And a layperson, we're told that there are two different types of in-depth reviews. A medical is not as intense of a review as a criminal. Right. And so those are our concerns. We hear that one is not nearly as thorough as the other.
He said her history shows it was probably suicide. The Justice of the Peace would not budge, even if there were. So we had to really try to, even though everybody came to say goodbye, and it's like, I'm not doing this till after Monday. No way. You know, I want to make sure that if it is, that it's,
Well, we want you guys to have some definitive closure too, and I think if we don't do that, then you're always going to think, you know, what if we had done this and that? And from that standpoint, if you look at it, you know, as one of our family members potentially, and you flip this, we would want the same thing. We want to make sure everything was done that could have been done if there was a doubt.
But
So we're in your corner.
I mean, we know there's been many trails of beatings, and I'm not saying that she hasn't instigated some of this stuff, and neither will Kimberly say that she hasn't part in the past. And we're not saying that she was easy to live with, but there's no reason.
Right. That's not even an issue in this matter.
But there's facts and proof that he's choked her out before, that he's beat her plenty of times before. There's a big bruise on her chest right now that shows that it wasn't the CPR, you know, that was weeks before.
so was the rod in the closet, I mean, strong enough to hold her body weight?
And was it high enough to where her feet wouldn't be on the ground?
Or her feet would not be on the ground?
But not, no, it's everything right now.
Let me ask you this, just, you know, from what I know, and pulmonologists and people that know the airway and know the breathing, and the neurologists, you know, their words, not mine, is that, you know, you can't, you know, now, again, this is, sound like for me, but this is their words saying, you know, you physically can't choke out yourself in that manner, or how could she physically do this with blood alcohol 384?
I'll put it this way: we've seen this several times that you can do that.
Sure.
Well,
And it is possible.
Done that not too long ago in a sexual type deal. David Garrity.
Well, I'm saying, if
He hung himself by just slowly cutting it off, and then the next thing you're out, and
sure.
then you hang because your body gives up. Well, you know that once the blood's cut off, you're dead weight. Just there.
And it only takes a few seconds once you cut that blood off to the brain that you go totally out.
And I know that because when I was a kid, I got choked out wrestling once, and I mean, it was boom, and I was out.
But we are looking at it from all angles. We're still looking at it. I just want y'all to be assured that we're doing everything we possibly can for y'all. If you get any more information, email me, call me. I'll follow up on it. I am going to be interviewing the ex-husband, and I'll go back and talk to Ada again. I went by to see her yesterday, matter of fact, and she wasn't there.
I would encourage you not to go by there.
Well, I'll call her. I mean, I'll get a hold of her.
Because I can see in her face that she, you know, they know that you're...
See, I didn't know that till today, what you've just told me, so I will call her on the phone, but I am going to talk to her again because I need to follow up with her on some stuff, and then especially this new information you gave me, and then I need to talk to Amanda's ex and see if he's got any additional information. There's some other stuff I've got to look into also, and...
Y'all know how the autopsy works at all?
No, I mean, we don't...
They'll make a preliminary conclusion, I guess is for lack of a better word, before the day they do the autopsy. But the definitive answer will be months away, probably before toxicology comes in. Does that make sense?
The toxicology, what do you mean?
All the blood work is going to take a lengthy amount of time to get back.
Even if there's nothing in the system, they still have to do toxicology because it's part of it, and the toxicology
We'll
takes so
know
long
rather
to come back.
quickly after the autopsy on what the MD says was the cause of death. And he'll say either homicide or suicide.
If he said he hung herself and he tried to stage it, whatever. How do you tell?
Well, that's up. Medical examiners are specialized in that field. They look at it. They tell us.
I won't tell you all of how that works, but there's some stuff they do.
Sure. And I guess the part of it, you know, we're looking at the marks on her neck, and it's a perfect circle at the lower part of the neck, as indicated in there. And with her weight and size, you know, it doesn't make sense how it would be at the base. You know, I'm not saying that it's not impossible. You know, we're not stupid. We know that, I mean, anything's possible.
Well, with the 384 blood alcohol could
Physically tied that tight, and 384.
She had a ride. She was going to ask Brian to spend one more night there, and Amber would get her on the next morning. She had her bag packed.
I mean, he said she had her backpack, and he said, you know, he said that he don't know why she had her backpack. He didn't.
They
know
weren't
why.
arguing.
They
They
weren't
weren't
arguing.
problems.
Yeah, there's some people that said she had a backpack, but there was no indication that she had any bags packed.
Really?
Even if he said it.
I mean, he told us.
Yeah, well, the bag he's talking about is the bag she takes to lunch to work every day at Royal Case. It's a small school bag. It was there, but as I talked to, without going into a lot of detail, I've talked to people that says she, that she brings that bag to work every day, but there was no other bags packed at all.
When she was moving before.
I don't know what was in the bag. It may have been
That's the size of the bag she was taking
lunch
before.
thing. I don't know.
I mean, we've seen her.
Yeah.
So if the maybe we're wrong about everything.
Well, we're going to look into everything for you, and like I say, we'll do everything we can to help you
It's not
out.
going to be right or wrong, but we're going to address the concerns and make sure, and you shouldn't think about it on the lines of right or wrong. You bring up what you think, where we need to go with it, as far as people that we don't know about that we need to talk to. We try to get everybody. That doesn't always happen because we don't know the family probably like you guys would.
So just based on her history of depression and stuff, that could be even that comes down to it. I mean,
That could be a part of it. We're going to look into that also. One question I did have for y'all: do y'all know if she had any social media pages anywhere? Because I looked around and I couldn't find anything.
She didn't have any technology. He wouldn't let her have it.
Okay.
And he broke the phones and
And we're told she didn't have a phone.
She had texted me that day, that Thursday, that she was looking for Amber's number. Tell Jordan I love him, and I'll call him later tonight. And that's the last time I talked to her, was that Thursday morning. So it didn't sound suicidal to me, but,
Thursday, but the number, let's make sure that y'all have the number that she called me from Thursday.
I don't have it here in my notes, but I did have one number. I think that she called. I think you told me she called you from it. No. Somebody told me, gave me a number, and then I also have one from Amber that she called from.
It's not go past Thursday.
it was 866. This is Amanda. Can you call and give me Amber's number? I think I have her number. Thank you. I'll try it, and I'll call you Jordan later. Love y'all.
She called you from, so she called me from the, was that what she said?
They said,
Is it the neighbor's phone?
No, that was the guy at the store, I thought.
Yeah, I think she was down at the gas
that could be Ada's number.
No, I have Ada's number.
That's not Ada's number?
No, she called me from that number.
She was borrowing a phone from
that
somebody at
morning.
the gas station. She was
I was
walking.
upstairs in the hospital at 10:30 when she called me from this number. Cause and one person can verify that I spoke to her. You had to have that. Was Jennifer Craig. I was in her office at this time reviewing credentials for a physician when Amanda called me on this number, and I said,
Jennifer works at Wilson Jones with you.
correct. So
So you talked to her?
at 8:37 a.m.
That was on Thursday?
Was it Thursday, the 14th?
Okay.
Yeah.
I was in Jennifer Craig's office, and I told her that I was talking to my sister-in-law, and so we stopped our conversation for me to talk to her,
Yeah.
and she was asking
I
for
mean, I
Amber's
don't know. I
phone.
mean, I don't know what you have. I guess we talked to Dustin. He told me you talked to her at 10:39. Talked to Dustin for 2 minutes. He's looking for Amber's number. Says she had to be out of there by 7. And she also told him that told Dustin that he had stolen $100 from her because she cashed her check, and they'd been in a huge argument over that the night before.
You want copies of the notes or anything? I mean, is that?
Sure, if you want me to make copies, I'll burn that
I mean,
off.
would that help? I don't know.
Well, it gives me y'all's timeline that y'all have, and I can verify some other stuff. So if you just leave it here, I'll shoot a copy of it just like that. That way you don't have to take all the brads out.
You can just hold it up there.
Where you're at.
Do we have a date on autopsy stuff yet? Do we know?
No.
She's in past
We're
yet.
still waiting.
I believe they're going to do it at the same time as the organ harvest.
Okay. I know there was some concerns over that.
But we also thought that
I thought yesterday I heard it would be this morning, and I guess things moved.
I guess, she had some blood flow still to the brain, so they can't declare her brain dead. So they may not be able to take her heart, and that's what they're trying to figure out right now.
But with a young person, just to let you know, with a young person her age, which we did one for almost identical situation about a month ago, the younger they are, the more opportunities for other people there is. The last one we did was 70 individuals that benefited. So for them to be able to funnel that many people, it takes more time than an older person, say 60 or 70, because they can donate as much.
the side wedding.
Oh, I thought there was two sides.
No, I just been doing research. Miranda Williams was one that she called and stayed with several times and witnessed, I guess, a beating. I don't know.
Do you have a phone number for Miranda?
Mm-hmm.
You got Amber.
Yeah, you talked to Amber.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Talked to Amber on Sunday.
Yeah, and she left there, went and beat the shit out of him.
He hasn't called us to make a report that I know of.
Well, the guy told Miss Ada said that the guy that owns the place or whatever said, "You need to get your shit and get out because I don't want any more trouble here." And she said he had a big folder of stuff, got in his car and left, and she hadn't seen him up until that point, Monday afternoon, back at the house. So
I don't know if y'all can freeze the bank account of Amanda's or not.
We can't.
yeah,
Because his checks go into that account.
Mm-hmm.
Because, word is that he's illegal.
it's 5.
We can't enforce immigration status either.
7.
And they will figure that 6 months ago.
Okay, just rural case has a check of hers up there. I'll let y'all pick it up. But, they said they heard that something happened to her, and they were asking about her. So I didn't tell them anything had happened other than we were just checking into stuff. So I didn't know if y'all want to go up there and take care of that. I just want to let you know it is up there.
We can't give you a time frame. I wish we could. I'd like to say we'd have this wrapped up by the end of the week, but some of this stuff is going to drag out. And like I say, the autopsy is really going to be one of the conclusive pieces we need.
I mean, just from
when it happens.
y'all's experience, I don't know if you can
I'd
say.
rather the autopsy not happen and she just wake up.
Yeah,
But I don't know if the physicians know all that more than I do.
Oh yeah, no, she's gone. She actually was no reflexes and brain dead whenever she got to the hospital. So
What was the question you're about to ask?
how do you, for autopsy stuff, with strangulation versus hanging, what do you see different that does
it's a
that?
pathologist thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be something that they determine whenever they do the examination down there.
There's tissue damage, and depending on what's used, there's different things they look for on strangulation versus a intentional hanging. And you can actually, if somebody's strangling with fingers, you can actually get fingerprints and there'll be finger marks. The tools
Even this long.
The impression of what was used will be deep inside the tissue.
But there's certain things that these guys, they're the MEs are the experts, and that's what they're trained to do is find things like this.
Sure.
So
It was more of like more of a venous, blood thing, but more of an air, more of the trachea because there's no petechiae or anything, but just that pressure there. They said the airway's probably just close, like smothering somebody. You don't have a lot of blood backup and bursting of vessels, but that's what the neurologist kind of said that. It was like the trachea was just pushed in down here at the base is what happened. It's just a breathing thing. It was more of an oxygenation thing than a blood flow. So I don't know. We'll just see. They're the experts, and
Yes, they'll let us
and
know
God's
what's
got
going on.
this, and he knows, and he'll be okay. He'll work out.
Well, I'll stay in contact with you if I get anything else. If y'all find anything else out, email me, give me a call. I will follow up on it, and I can get back to doing what the other stuff that I was doing before, and I'll get with Ada and the ex-husband, and I'll definitely talk to both of them, and I'll call this Miranda also. Where does Miranda live at?
She lives in Durant.
Okay. She actually left the house and went to stay with her in Durant before. Okay.
A lot of people.
What about the ladies from work?
Yeah, I was gonna get their names. It's at the hospital, but the Great Clips employees, just.
Late December, same
like
comments.
kick her
Who's
out.
that?
The people she worked with at Great Clips before.
Oh, Great Clips, okay.
So I have their names, but
She hadn't been working at Great Clips since January, is that right? That's when she worked on a royal case?
She was probably before that. She was homeless for a little bit. So it was probably, I think, December. I don't know unless you know that date for sure. I'm not sure, but
Okay.
she was. I know there was like a little bit of time there that she didn't have a job at all.
Okay.
But,
Yeah. If you want to email me or call me, let me know. And give me phone numbers for them. I'll talk to them and
I mean, I can probably give you tons of people to talk to that's been with her and has witnessed that. I'm thinking it's going to beat a dead horse because it's just.
Yeah, if we're all saying, given the pattern of abuse, and I think we've already established that.
Yeah.
We just need to see if there's going to be anything linking it to this deal.
I guess Amber's the only one that, and I guess it's hearsay what Amanda told her that he was going to do. She wasn't gone that day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's, when you say hearsay, you're talking about a court proceedings, but it's something that we can use and go back and try to verify.
I mean, 'cause that's what she told Amber that day, that if she wasn't gone, what he was going to do.
And Amber told me that before she even knew why she was in the hospital.
Before she knew what had happened, she said that Amanda said that she was going to choke her.
Kill her next time.
Next time if he wasn't gone.
Right, that's what Amber told me. Yeah.
Or knew anything.
Yeah, she said she called her and told her that.
And all these comments
right
are
before
coming
that.
to us before people knew these things, and they're just openly saying these things before they knew what happened. I wouldn't tell the grandfather today, much less tell other people I don't know near us were, that he asked what happened. I said, I just can't talk about it right now. There's too much other stuff going on.
Such a lot of alcohol, quit breathing, and just kind of keeping it very down low. Anyway, thank you.
Well, I hope that helped you.
I appreciate
a
you
little bit.
coming up and talking to me, give me this information.
We will give you everything, I promise, being the next of kin with her, and we're very willing to share. We just need to do it at the right time for everything.
And we have a little passion about it. I mean, we lost a mom and sister to domestic violence in 2009. So we were just, it really didn't hit me until they took the collar off and I saw the marks. And, maybe, the doubt of behaving. So, anyway.
I don't blame you for that. I would do the same thing if I was in her shoes. I'd be wanting to make sure.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Thank y'all guys for bringing that information.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening to part 3 of the Pierce family murders, the suspicious death of Amanda Pierce. As I've said, all of the contacts that you can call and or email will be in the show notes, as well as on my social media. You can find me on Instagram at Reverie True Crime, Twitter at Reverie Crime Pod, Tumblr at Reverie True Crime, and the Facebook page is facebook.com/Reverie True Crime. Until next time, stay safe and take care.